Our gospel today, the 32nd Sunday of Ordinary Time, is taken from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verses 1 through 13. We are nearing Matthew's account of the passion and death of Jesus. There is a sense of urgency and the encouragement to be on the alert, stay awake. These two chapters of 24 and 25 of Matthew are sometimes referred to by scholars as the eschatological discourse. The English word eschatological comes from the Greek word eschatos, meaning the last. Eschatology is about the last things, the end time. There is mention of chaos, possible persecution, and even the coming of the Son of Man, known as the parousia, the parousia. There is this sense of coming to an end of an era. Things are changing irreparably. Some people think it's actually the end of the world. We know from this distance it wasn't, but that's the mood. We can assume that this is not an unabridged, pure reflection of Jesus' words and teaching, that the historical social context has helped to shape this message and this mood. In 66, the year 66, a group of zealots led a rebellion against the Romans in Jerusalem. The Romans, with clinical and brutal force, crushed the rebellion. It took them about 3 years. By the end of that 3 years, there wasn't much left of the temple of Jerusalem or Jewish society. A small remnant escaped to Masada, south of Jerusalem. The Romans followed them there, and before the Romans could kill them all, they committed mass suicide. This also helps us to understand the mood, the tenor of the times. It's desperate. It's chaotic. Add to this the fact that Christians didn't join in the rebellion. Christians very often found themselves at odds with members of their own family, members of their own village, over Jesus. Some believed in Jesus, some did not. So this is part of the social historical context in which this parable of the 10 maidens, the 10 virgins, the 10 bridesmaids, various translations are used, but the context is the story of a wedding. So bridesmaids seems to be a good translation. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. Scholars debate as to whether or not this is a parable or an allegory. The difference is simply this: a parable is open-ended. The listener, the reader, can read or listen to the parable, engage it with their imagination, and allow an interpretation to emerge, one that's not given, as it were, predefined. It's not preempted by the story. Whereas in an allegory, it is somewhat preempted because the people, events, and things in the allegory refer quite clearly to people, events, and things in the world of the listener or the reader. So if it is an allegory, if we want to interpret it as an allegory, we'll ask such questions as, who is the bridegroom? Who are the bridesmaids? Who are the foolish and who are the wise? What does it mean that the door was closed? And we look for related people, events, and things in the world of that time. This is a legitimate way to read the text, but the allegorical interpretation suggests the influence of the times and the community in a way that might blur the actual original words of Jesus. And finding those words and Jesus' intent is part of our reading of the Bible. The first thing we seek in reading the Bible is an encounter with the living God. So I'm going to suggest we read this as a parable rather than an allegory. And when I read it as a parable, one of the things that comes to mind is the facts. The facts of a wedding are outlined here, and they are very obvious and very plausible. This is how weddings happen. The facts of some people are forgetful. Some people are not. Some people come prepared. Some people don't. And the facts of the consequences of that. In our Catholic tradition, there is a very simple and a very wonderful spirituality around the facts, the ordinary facts of life, the simple facts of our days, like getting out of bed in the morning, like turning up for work, like closing a door, opening a door, putting a key in the door, making a cup of coffee, washing your face, cuddling a child that's hurt, saying goodbye to loved ones, meeting people, greeting people. Our days are full of this. And if we believe in the incarnation, we are bound, I believe, to accept the fact that God is in all this, that life is sacramental. In the human is the divine. In the material is the spiritual. In the temporal is the eternal. In the profane is the sacred. God is everywhere. We can encounter the risen Christ in the simple facts of our days. Slow down. Take a bit more time with the facts, the simple facts. Be present as you make a cup of coffee, as you close a door or open a door, as you greet somebody, as you wait in line at the supermarket, as you say goodbye and hello. Let the simple facts of life be sacraments for you, to speak to you of God's graciousness and God's love and God's ever-present mercy. And give thanks.